So hopefully it's positive stuff right now.
Agreed.
Derek said he ran so fast. His
yeah.
time was like ridiculous. I finished like 2 hours after him. It's okay. I finished.
You finished, absolutely.
Okay, so let's get started. Just talking about some action items from previously.
Okay.
Whiteboard stuff, updated grades goal.
Yes.
Talk me through the whiteboard stuff, and with that, I think I'll probably share some feedback from my observation as well.
Oh, sure. So the whiteboard stuff is just become the same expectations as IP, which is you're silent unless you have a question and you're whispering to your neighbor. And so it settles things down a lot more, and it's been much more effective. It's less fun for them, obviously,
right.
But it's been much better.
So you feel like they're following through with the expectation? Do you feel like it's silent all the time?
That one's like the harder of the. I think I've talked to them. It's the harder of the two to manage because that's like a main time where I walk around, and it will. I mean, they will be doing what I ask, but then if the early finishers and gets to go quick, then you'll hear like a distinct like rise, but which is hard because I'm not like I need people to walk around during that time to help kids. I feel. So it's not as easy to manage as the IP is, where generally like most kids are understanding pretty well by that point. So what generally will happen is I'll be walking around, the noise level will they start to creep up, and I know in my brain the kids are finishing, but it's like, oh, I'm helping Bruce right now, so like they don't have to wait. So like that balance is a little tricky.
Do they have options of things to do when they're done early that other than like assign yourself or
No, they don't.
That's something maybe to explore, is the idea of like when you finish early you have options X, Y, or Z. I know you said you had something like by the door they could pick up sometimes, like an extension problem, things like that.
Yeah, there's almost always an extension problem they could certainly pick up.
Do you feel like there's motivation to do that? They're like excited to
There
do the
generally
extension problem?
is, because it's usually linked to some sort of prize or a reward or something. So yeah, there is.
So I mean that might be something that you want to bring into that part of class as well.
Point. Yeah.
Being able to do something like that. I think the thing that I think about for your class is how much you don't like kids just getting up and walking around. So I wonder if there's like a way for you to place that at tables or like, in a folder hanging off tables, like where on the other side of the whiteboard, so there's an extension problem for you or whatever. I feel like there's like bang for the buck in terms of setting that up.
Yeah, I actually think that's a really good idea. They generally, when they're done with their IP, they generally stand up and go get the extension problem. So, but I don't love that either.
I know that you don't love people like walking around.
I don't appreciate it. So I could put it in the folders. I think that's a good idea, actually.
So let's take that as a step, okay? I mean, that seems like a pretty simple one too, right? Agreed. So you should be able to just like take them and put them in. All right, so let's say that. I think that would be a great step. And then they can work on it all throughout class instead of just after they finish their independent practice, which means that maybe there are more kids who will finish the extension problem and stuff like that.
Yeah,
cool.
That's a good idea.
Well, it seems like generally this kind of shift to the silence, except if you're whispering to help your partner, is actually going really well in your room. Like, I think you were a little bit nervous at first about like what was going to happen when you implemented it. But do you feel holistically like it's helping class?
I do feel like it's helping class a lot. I think it's still sort of hard because, as we've talked about, it's not like exactly like what I would hope it to be. Like, I really do believe that it would be much more effective for kids if they could do like a more casual helping each other. But I think for this part of like myself and them, I think the silence is working much better. I do, but I eventually I would like to get to a place where it can be more effective group work or partner work. I just don't feel like it's right now. So
I mean, I guess I observed independent practice because I observed the race when I was in there, and it seemed like it was extremely effective. I mean, to be honest, Emma, like it was completely silent for the whole time I was in there, with the exception of a couple of students who were asking for help. I felt like you got to work with the student you wanted to work with during that time, who was Leslie, for the class that I observed. You spent the majority of your time with Leslie. Nothing was happening around the room that you had to look up and be like, what's happening? You were able to really have a conversation with her, which I think, meant that Leslie was better supported and students were relying on each other at their tables more. I think there was also like a large amount of independent work time where you were able to have that one-on-one time and where they were sustained silent. So it seemed like it was going really, really, really well when I was in the room.
Yeah.
And if that's what it looks like all the time, then I think that kids are probably getting much more practice.
Yeah.
You're able to work with the kids that you want to work with, and they're relying on each other more than, you know, like kind of sifting through and having to rely on you all the time.
Yeah. That's generally how I feel about it too, so.
Good. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it. I think I need to like get it in my, like get it in my brain of like, I was actually thinking maybe I should go and observe Janice again, because I know she's also is very, as you said, like structure a lot, and so I think like with this new like vision of what my class should look like in my head, maybe observing her would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Since she was probably a good one, right?
Like Janice, yes. I think, I mean, kids do work in partners a lot. I think the best thing to observe would probably be independent writing time, because the kids go to each other to be able to give like peer feedback or peer help instead of coming to her during those times. And so I think it is really connected to what you're doing. And I think you could observe her at any point, because she teaches while you're off, and so it's really easy for you to just pop in there, or even shoot her an email and say like, Kara, like I want to see this specific thing. What time is best to come into your room? And then she can give you that feedback, because independent writing time happens, you know, in like the last 30 to 40 minutes of her class. And so she can give you a specific time.
Sounds good.
All right. So do you want to take that as a step over the next? Actually. I mean, we're not meeting again for 2 weeks, and so maybe what we can say is in the next 2 weeks, you'll observe Kara for that kind of peer tutoring time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great. You know, there was a question that I had about that independent work time that I wanted to talk through with you a little bit, and the main thing that I saw that I think could deter you from what you really want to have accomplished during that time is that there were still children who were raising their hands and asking for help during the independent practice time without necessarily getting the help from their partner first. So I specifically saw Maria Diaz, Victoria Estrada, nope, that's probably Vivi, and then Danny Solorzano, raising their hands. And when I went to Danny and I said, who have you asked at your table? And he said, or have you asked when I said, have you asked your partner yet? He said, no. And then he asked his partner, and I think it's Juan, and Juan was able to like lead him through it. And I think Danny's instinct was to raise his hand and say, Mr. Olson, help me, when he still has that resource next to him. Are you seeing that in other classes too?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Maybe I can I don't make it like my first, maybe I could do what you said, like what you said to him is like, have you asked your partner already? And then, that can be my first question when they raise their hand. I think that's a good idea.
Because I do think that, like, I mean, and Vivi too, you know, she can get the resources around her as well. And so I think that they're used to asking for help really quickly, which is fine. But I think now that you've built in that system, you want to push them to move to that partner first before they reach out to you.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay.
Asking them if they have asked their partner.
How are you going to make that explicit to them? You're just going to, like, go and say, have you asked your partner?
I feel like I could just say it at this point. Like, I feel like, I mean, they know that the first step is to ask a partner. And I just think the implementation of it, I haven't really enforced that well, so I feel just saying that to them.
Okay, perfect. It's less of, like, an action step and more of a just, like, become part of the routine, right?
Right.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, I think, I think your data that you have, like, directly matches the effectiveness of what you're doing, because, like, looking at the data, it's super, super, super high, right? And so it seems like kids are getting a lot of independent practice time. I mean, I know you've said that this stuff is, like, a little bit easier for them, that the unit's a little bit easier, but kids are mastering at super high levels, which I think is directly a result of you getting to work one-on-one with kids and that huge amount of time they have to practice. great. I mean, it was great. I obviously always love being in your class, but it was really cool to get to see you working so strategically with one student during that time, because you didn't have to worry about anything else that was going on around you.
Nice.
And it was the same class that I observed last week when they were working, so it was, or 2 weeks ago when they were working that group work, so it was cool to see the juxtaposition of those two. Let's talk data. So I kind of referenced it already. I have a couple questions, and I want to talk through the formula chart a little bit.
Yeah.
So the debate, was it a debate amongst teachers how to teach?
No, me and Erica talked about it because I used to teach it a different way, which was like just so sort of want to teach it as, but it's like using their inch. I won't go into it, but it's using their hands to decide if they divide or they multiply. And that's the way I know Helen had taught them, just to decide if they want to divide or multiply. But I'm really happy that I really like this way, and kids like it too, and it's sort of fun for them. And a lot of the lower students latch onto it really quick. So I would like to, if there's time, to go back, and I was thinking about maybe doing an academic support that way
as well.
But I think proportions was really good because it one of the main mistakes in proportions is they always forget, if it's yards to feet. They'll sometimes put the feet on the top in the next step, if that makes sense. And so I
saw that happen in your room.
Yeah, and they do that with normal proportion problems as well, or ratio problems too, is the main mistake. So I think it was good because I caught a few kids doing that, and I could be like, wait, is that yards or feet? And so that was a really good review of that. And just generally a good review of proportions, since we do them so often. So I think it was a good choice, but at some point I'd like to go back. But
I mean, it seems like, from what you're saying, the strategy would be really good for your academic support kids if it's something that they can latch on to and will support some of the lower kiddos a bit more. I think it would be really worthwhile for you to do it in academic support.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Okay, great. And then the formula chart. It's interesting. I read Janelle's feedback from her class, and she mentioned it in the feedback as well.
Yes, and I was actually, for that day, I actually had meant to print out the formula, and I did it for my other classes. I just didn't get to the ranger, so that was good. But I also, I noticed when they were working, is they didn't know how to reference it, which is, I mean, it makes sense, but it's not something they weren't using it at all, and I think it'd be really important that they do. But it's just kind of a matter of just another piece of paper for them to be shuffling around. But I do think it's important. They have it. Oh, I said this near. We're doing a project that's due on Wednesday, and they have it for that. So hopefully I'll give them some practice with it. But
is there something else you think that you need to do in class before next Tuesday to be able to make sure that they use it?
Yes, I do. I wonder, starting on Thursday, we're reviewing for the next 3 days, and I wonder when we get to the review of it, which will be Monday and Wednesday, Monday and Friday, I'll just always have it, and they'll just practice referring to it, I guess.
We might even do a mini lesson about it on the review day, Emma, and be able to say, have two goals even. One that's students will be able to use their chart, students will be able to review by da-da-da-da-da. I wonder if just having a quick I do, we do, you do type thing, 15-minute cycle of how to refer to it could be helpful.
And that would be good because generally review days are a lot of independent or partner time, so that would be a good little mini lesson to do anyway.
Great.
So I can just...
Do you want to do it Friday or Monday?
On Friday we're reviewing geometry, so that will be, I guess, probably Monday, because that's more when they have to use their chart on that material. So.
Okay. I'll try and get in there on Monday too, so I can give you some feedback on the mini lesson. My schedules are a bit crazy, but
I know.
It should work. Monday. Great. Okay. That's great. I think that mini lesson will really help them. I
do too.
And we want them to be able to use it. I mean, they have it there when they're taking their test, so I feel like it makes a lot of sense for them to know how to use it in a better way.
Yeah.
You might talk to Katie about it as well, because she gave really similar feedback to Katie Hart. Yeah. And so I think even co-planning the mini lesson, or one of you plan it and give it to the other, could be really helpful.
Yeah, that's a very good idea.
Let's talk through some of the other things that you wrote down on here, specifically having to do with the exit ticket.
Yeah.
I know you're